All right, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking a really fascinating debate from our source material. The source poses a massive, fundamental question about the very bedrock of modern Indian society. Are we operating on India's own ancient indigenous philosophies, or are we actually still running on a blueprint left behind by colonial administrators? The speaker presents this not just as some dry historical curiosity, but as an absolutely crucial choice for the nation's future. It's about deep national introspection. So, according to the source, India is facing this huge ideological crossroads regarding its social and reservation policies. And it literally all boils down to one highly provocative question. Are we building Gita's India or Risley's India? On one side, you've got the Bhagavad Gita representing ancient Indian thought. On the flip side, you have Sir Herbert Hope Risley, a British colonial administrator. And the speaker argues that you really can't grasp India's current reservation system until you figure out which of these two frameworks the country is actually following. To get to the bottom of this, we'll cover 1. The core debate, 2. The Gita model, 3. The Risley blueprint, 4. 75 years of reservation, and 5. The merit paradox. Section 1. The core debate, merit versus birth. This completely captures the central dichotomy the source is laying out for us. You have the ancient model based on guna, which means qualities, and karma, meaning actions. It's a system entirely driven by individual merit and character. Then, opposing that, you have the colonial classification system introduced by Risley, and this one is based completely on birth and frankly highly arbitrary physical traits. The source argues these are two fundamentally opposite ways of organizing human beings, and grasping this clash is totally key to understanding today's societal tensions. Moving to Section 2, the Gita model, action over origin. To really drive this home, the source zeroes in on a very specific verse from Chapter 4, verse 13 of the Bhagavad Gita. The speaker emphasizes that Lord Krishna explicitly states the fourfold societal order was created based on divisions of, quote, quality and work. But the most crucial takeaway here, according to the explainer, is actually what's completely missing from the verse, and that's birth. The source emphasizes that in this foundational text, birth just isn't the metric for societal categorization. Everyone is born equal, and it's their actions, their knowledge, their character that actually define their role. To back this up, the speaker points straight to prominent figures from Indian antiquity. Take Maharishi Valmiki, who authored the epic Ramayana, or Vedvyas, the revered compiler of the Mahabharata. Now, the source notes that neither of these foundational figures were born into the traditionally highest social classes. But, through what the speaker beautifully calls the womb of knowledge, they achieved the exalted status of Brahmins. They were defined entirely by their immense scholarship, completely overriding where they came from. Now get this, because this is a fascinating historical detail highlighted by the source. The rigid modern idea of caste is actually a foreign implant. The very word itself, caste, is not indigenous to India. It comes from the Portuguese word casta. The speaker explains that Portuguese colonizers first brought this rigid birth-based concept to Goa, and then the British basically adopted and amplified it. According to this analysis, native philosophy only looked at qualities. Caste as a permanent birthright was an imported colonial construct. Which brings us to Section 3, the Risley Blueprint, Colonial Classification. The source gives us a very specific timeline for this massive shift. After the Indian Mutiny of 1857, the British quickly realized that a united India was basically impossible to govern. So, the speaker argues, this triggered a calculated divide and rule strategy. Kicking into high gear around the 1901 census and locked in by 1931, the British started exhaustively mapping the population. They needed to replace that fluid, merit-based Indian system with something rigid, predictable, and fundamentally divisive. Enter Sir Herbert Hope Risley, a key British official. According to the source, Risley used some pretty wild, pseudo-scientific methods to categorize people. He was literally out there measuring physical traits, the width of a nose, forehead shape, skin color. Based on those measurements, he assigned people into racial categories, fracturing the society into 4,000 distinct birth-based castes. The speaker uses a really powerful metaphor for this. They say Risley poured a cement slurry over Indian society. What used to be fluid was now permanently frozen into 4,000 unchangeable buckets. Section 4, 75 years of reservation, evaluating the impact.
Okay, look at this number, 15. The speaker points out that when India gained independence and set up reservations, the original intent was for these policies to last for only 15 years, just a temporary boost to historically marginalized groups to level the playing field. But well, that 15-year plan has now stretched to over 75 years. So the source asks us to seriously evaluate this. Has this system actually achieved equality over the last 7.5 decades?
To answer that, the source dives straight into data from the Rohini Commission. This commission looked at how other backward classes, or OBC, reservation benefits were actually being distributed on the ground. And the findings are striking. They found that these benefits are not being distributed equally at all. Instead of lifting everyone up, the benefits are heavily concentrated within just a few specific communities, leaving others in that exact same category totally behind. To break this data down, the speaker uses a fantastic, vivid analogy. Imagine a mom makes 20 rotis for her 4 hungry sons. What's actually happening, according to the source's read of the policy, is that 2 dominant brothers are hoarding 18 of the rotis. One grabs 10, the other takes 8. That leaves the 2 most marginalized, weakest brothers basically starving with just 1 roti each. The speaker argues this shows a deep flaw in the current system. The strong just get stronger, while the truly vulnerable are stuck exactly where they started. And that leads us to Section 5, the merit paradox, personal versus national choices. The explainer points out what they see as a glaring paradox in modern society. When it comes to our personal lives, like if your kid needs a teacher or a family member needs surgery, we demand absolute 100% merit. We want the best person for the job, period. We don't ask for a doctor from a specific reserved category. We want the one who can save a life. But, the speaker argues, when it comes to building the nation, staffing our public institutions, engineering, governance, we suddenly accept a system that compromises on that very same strict merit. The source really questions this double standard. And the source argues this double standard isn't just hypocritical, it actively stunts the country's growth. By sidelining pure merit at the national level, the speaker claims India is driving a massive brain drain. Highly talented individuals who feel locked out of fair opportunities at home simply pack up and go overseas. The source notes that this is exactly why you see so many Indians leading massive global companies abroad, because those environments actually reward the guna and karma that the domestic system is currently overlooking. Ultimately, the source wraps up this whole critique by dropping one final, incredibly provocative question for us to chew on. After 75 years of moving away from the Gita's merit-based philosophy and leaning on Risley's birth-based classifications, what's the actual result? Did these policies unite the nation and end discrimination, or did they just leave it deeply divided and confused about its own core values? It's a heavy question from the source material, but it challenges us to consider, does true national progress lie in ancient individual action or colonial-era classification?